And must have. Let's try it again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. I am Rick Weaver, your host. I'm joined tonight by Blake Duckworth, as always, my co-host. Tonight we have a special guest from North Carolina, Mr. Bobby. He's a researcher up there. Bobby was telling Blake and I of a few encounters that he'd had before, right before we started. Blake, you want to go ahead and open the show, bud?
How's everyone doing tonight? As always, thank you guys for your support. Channel's starting to grow more and more. We're on the road to 300 subscribers. If you're not already subscribed, if you don't mind, please hit the subscribe button, bell notification, like, and a comment. And thank you guys so much, and that's all, Ricky.
All right, without further ado, folks, let's bring Mr. Bobby on. Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Doing good, man.
Good to be on here with y'all.
All right, Bobby, as we said earlier, you know, the floor is yours, bud. Just to kind of give people a little brief bio about yourself.
Got a question, though, real quick, Bobby. Is this your first time, like, kind of sharing your stories publicly, or?
It's not my first time sharing my stories. It's my first time doing it live like this.
Oh, okay.
I was on Sasquatch Odyssey.
Okay.
With Brian Sharp. I did 2 episodes on there. And I have my own Facebook page just for my research.
What's your Facebook page?
That's North Carolina Backwoods Bigfoot Research.
Okay.
On Facebook. And you know, I mean, I talk to people about this stuff. It don't sometimes people look at me like I'm crazy, and sometimes they're like, really, man, that happened to y'all? Y'all saw that? So, you know, but anyway, like I was telling y'all, I grew up in the woods my entire life, fishing, hunting, camping, running the rivers and the creeks and stuff. Nothing had ever happened. And Bigfoot got popular, you know. And I was seeing stuff on TV, and I was like, man, them people's crazy. Them things ain't me. I didn't think they were real, or at least I thought they were not here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You don't think about them being in your backyard.
So, like I said, we went camping that weekend in 2013, and that we had our first encounter down there. And I wanted answers. That's what got me into research. And so I got, you know, I reached out to some different places, and
if you don't mind, Bobby, share that encounter. I know we were just talking about it, but go ahead and share it for the viewers.
Okay, so me and my wife had went camping like I had been doing my whole life. And as a matter of fact, this particular area, I've camped there over years, weeks and weeks and weeks. And so that Saturday night, about 2:30 in the morning, I get woke up to this loud roaring scream. I sat up in the tent and I was like, man, what in the world was that? You know? And it was about, I don't know, 10 seconds later, it let out another one, but it was closer to us. And I was like, I don't know what that is, man. So the second one woke my wife up. And she's like, what was that? What is that? I said, I don't know what that is. I ain't never heard nothing like it. And it let out another scream, and it was behind the tent. And, you know, I told my wife, I said, we got to get out of this tent. I don't know what that is. I'm not staying in this tent and I can't see. So I get out of the tent, strike my lantern, and I hear it take off. So I never saw it that night. And there were some people camped to the right of us and to the left of us. So the next morning, it was roughly probably 7 o'clock in the morning. The people to the right of us, they were carrying their stuff out. And we knew one of the ladies, and my wife was like, what are y'all doing? She said, girl, we're leaving. We're getting out of here. Didn't y'all hear that thing last night? And there was probably 10 people in that group, but we only knew that one lady. So later on that day, I'm down by the lake fishing a little bit. My wife hollers, you got to come up here and see this. I go up behind the tent, and it had through excrement. It was up in the trees, and when I say up in the trees, I mean 10, 12 feet. You know, just like you grabbed a handful of mud and slung it. And it was all over the back of our tent. And then that's when I saw the feet prints. And I was like, no way, man. But that's what got me into doing this. And
Now, when you seen those prints, what went through your head? I mean, so I know that you said you went home and was listening to howls, and that's when you kind of started connecting dots. I mean, when you seen those prints, did that cross your mind about it being Bigfoot, or did that come later when you started listening to the howls?
well, it crossed my mind, but at the time, I was like, no, man, there ain't no way. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, and I think that's something that happens to all of us when we first encounter these things.
yeah, it's my baby girl. That ain't them, baby. Come on, go in there with mama.
She's fine.
Give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, as I was telling Bobby, Blake, I think that's something that happens to all of us when we first encounter these things.
Well, I mean, it's your brain just tries to process of everything that went on. I mean, especially if you never.
All right,
had
guys,
like
I'm back.
happen.
I apologize.
Oh, no problem, Bobby.
So, yeah, I mean, the thought, I was looked at them and I was like, no way,
Yeah, you're still just trying to process everything.
I was in disbelief.
Yeah.
I knew what I was seeing. And I knew what I heard wasn't no animal native to my area that I knew of.
Yeah.
But so we get back home and I started searching for animals that sounds that matched that sound, and I couldn't find any. And when I did find some, it was Bigfoot screams. And so, and then, like I say, I reached out a little bit. I couldn't really get no information or get much help on the subject. So my brother, he's actually here now. He's my right hand man. But you know, I said, I grew up in the woods. I know how to track animals, and I know how to look for tracks and sign and all that stuff. I'll just do it myself. And so I started doing it because I wanted answers for me. And, you know, it's been, the rest is history, man. It's been full blown for 8 years now. And, I'm really fortunate because when that happened at the time, we didn't, well, we were living somewhere else. And then about, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 months later, we got a different place out in the country. So my backyard, my land, joined up with the UR National Forest land. So I could walk off of my property and be on the National Forest. A section of it, not the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, and by this time, you know, I'm like, well, it is what it is. So we get moved in and everything out there, and I grew up on a farm. I've heard every kind of animal sound just about there is, you know. But we had been living there for about close to a year. And I was on my tractor one day plowing up the garden. And there was a timber rattlesnake right beside my well house, which was in my front yard. And she was a great big one, about 5.5 foot long, with a string of rattlers on her about that long. Can't see that. Anyways, so I got youngins and I said, she's got to go. So, you know, I got rid of her and I just tossed her up in the edge of the woods. Didn't think no more about it. And so I come home from work the next day, and for some reason I just thought, man, I'm gonna go see if that snake's still laying there. And she was gone, which ain't really that strange.
Yeah.
You know, other animals eat them, but for some reason in that particular, I found it strange. And so the first time I ever went in them woods over there, I told my wife, I said, hey, I ain't never felt uncomfortable in the woods before. Every time I go in these woods, I feel really uneasy, like you know, just like you better be on alert all the time.
Something's not right.
Something's not right. So, it was the next week, 2:30 in the morning. Me and my wife's in the bed. Our bedroom was about 40 yards from the wood line. And 2:30 in the morning, right beside my bedroom window. Fire! Fire! Slapping the house. I was like, what in the world? I grab my pistol, my flashlight, and take off outside.
Yeah, because you're thinking somebody or something.
Yeah,
like
I
that.
was thinking a person was trying to break in or something.
Yeah.
I didn't see a thing, and I didn't hear anything else. I was like, man. So the next day, I get home and I call my buddy, and I'm talking to him about it, and he is, you know, I don't know, he's a woodsman. And he's like, well, maybe an owl or something flew into your house. I said, twice? Like that, you know? No, man. I said, man, when that thing hit my house, it shook our bedroom so much that my dressers were shaking.
Been a 500-pound owl.
You know, if it'd have been yeah, I was like, no way. So anyway, it happened again the next night, almost same time, between 2 and 2:30 in the morning. Same thing. I take off outside, don't see nothing, don't hear nothing. So, man, this is weird, you know. So the next week, me and my wife, we were going out of town on vacation. My brother house sit for me because I had animals, farm animals and stuff. Well, I forgot to tell him about it. So it happened again while he was there, 2 nights in a row at the same time. And the second night it happened, he called me. He's like, man, what is going on at your house? Something has slapped the tar out of your house. I said, I don't know, dude. You know.
Your guess is as good as mine.
So, but him and his son went outside that night after it happened, and they heard something back up on the mountain, and he said, Bobby, it sounded just like a woman screaming to the top of her lungs. And I was like, really? You know. So anyway, we get back home, and I was like, man, there's got to be something somewhere. So I get to looking at my house, and about 7.5 foot high off the ground, my shutter's busted in 3 places. The shutter right beside my window. And I'm looking at the, you know, and I'm like, right by the well house is the quickest way back to the woods. So I take off and I walk it. And we had a little residential power line right there, about 30 yards. I get to it, and right in the middle of that power line was a footprint, and it was a left foot, and it was 16 inches long. So I was like, okay. I was already thinking what was going on, but I didn't say anything. And when I saw that footprint, I knew.
Yeah.
So, and that's when I really started researching pretty hard. Then we started, you know, going in the woods, finding stick structures and stuff. I find the prints on the power line behind my house, and so I'm a deer hunter. I had a spot up there where I had a tree stand in September. It was September 2014. I had a trail camera. You know, up here we can bait deer, so I do. And I'm going through my trail cam pictures one day, and I'm like, man, what is that back there? There's a doe and a buck in the picture, but there's something in the back behind the buck. And so I click on that picture and make it big, and I was like, oh my God. And it's a Bigfoot, man, standing there about 8.5 foot tall, just as plain as day. You know, and then I really started, you know, researching hard because I knew there's nothing else it could have been.
Well, that was you had visual proof.
Right. And so encounters, I mean, that was, you know, the first one was at the lake, then the slapping on the house, and then I got that picture, and then it got to where I would go outside sometimes at night, and I would be like, what where's that? Why is somebody beating on? Sound like somebody beating on their barn or something at this time of night. Well, it was them doing wood knocks. And every once in a while, we'd hear a scream or something like that. But
Now, were the screams that you were hearing there similar to your first
yes.
encounter with? Yes.
Oh yeah. So what we did is, me and my brother one day, I was like, man, here's what I want to do. I want to go look for these things or for prints or whatever we find, but let's pretend like we squirrel hunt because squirrel season was in. So we take off, go up the mountain with our little 22 rifles, and we went north on the ridge, and then we went down and come down in the creek bottom, and we just basically made a big circle. And well, we got down in that creek bottom, and we stopped at this tree, and we were standing there talking. And we started hearing this noise coming from just across the creek. And I was like, man, what is that? My brother's like, I don't know, man. Well, it was getting louder. So that, I said, whatever it is, it's getting closer to us. And I can't describe it to you. It was like that thing was huffing. Like it was ticked off. You know what I'm saying? Like a mad bull. And I was like, dude, let's get back up the mountain. And because in my mind, I was thinking, all I got with me is this little 22 rifle. And that sounds too big for it. So we take off up the mountain. Well, it didn't follow us directly behind us. It followed us off to our right. It flanked us up the mountain. So
kind of paralleled you guys.
Yes. So we get about halfway up the mountain, and I'm about out of breath. And I said, I ain't running no more. And I knew what it was. So we standing there, and I reached down on the ground and picked up a stick and slapped the tree with it twice. Well, the second time I hit the tree, that stick broke. And that ticked that sucker off, buddy. So my brother, he goes on to the top. There's this big blue down oak tree. He jumps up on that thing, and he's looking down the direction that noise is coming at us from. And I'm still standing over there about 20 yards away trying to catch my breath. And I look up at him, and I see the look on his face, and he's froze. And so I take off running, and I jump up on the blue down oak tree beside him, and I see this thing, and it's leaned out by this tree, just looking dead at us, about 50 yards away. Broad daylight.
Pretty much got your locked eyes at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was broad daylight, and in February, there wasn't no leaves on the trees. We wasn't in no thicket, you know what I'm saying? And he saw it walk up to the tree, huffing and puffing. When I got up there, it was already at the tree, and it was leaned out. And the thing that stuck with me, two things, well, really three, but that thing's head was as big around as the steering wheel of my car, number one. And he had big black eyes. They were, and his right arm was hanging out the way he was leaned over. And that arm had to be 6 feet long, and it was big as my leg. And it had hair hanging off the back of it, a little bit like it was longer in that area. It didn't have no hair on its face, but all around it, you know what I'm saying?
Now, question.
And he ran us off the mountain that day. We had to leave.
Could you tell any facial features? I mean, far as, people talk about pug noses, distance from the eyes to the nose? I mean, could you tell any type of those features?
Oh yeah. Like I say, his eyes were, let's see, big as about that big around, probably.
About twice the size of ours.
Yes, and probably 7-8 inches apart. Facial features, yeah, they got big pudgy noses. I haven't seen one yet, or got a picture of one yet that has a nose like a gorilla. They got noses that look more like ours.
Now that's
But
what
they're
I'm getting ready to
bigger.
ask. Would you consider his facial features to be more of human-like?
Man, they're
Mixed.
mixed, man.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at one, you're looking at an ape, but they don't
Very
have the
intelligent.
flat gorilla nose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Their noses stick out like ours do. They're just way bigger, man. I mean,
The reason I'm asking,
and their skin, or these ones anyway, their skin is a gray, a dark. Most of them are a dark grayish color. Some of them will have a little lighter tint to it, but I mean, and that's what they look like.
we've talked to some people that's had pretty close encounters, and so a few of the guys that we've talked to kind of describe almost like a Native American type of look to them to a certain extent.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Kind of hard to describe.
They don't make me think like that. It makes me. I mean, they to me they look like they do resemble the human face in some ways. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, they don't look like nothing you've ever seen before.
something hybrid almost.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So,
all right, Bobby, from your experiences, bud, would you say that these creatures would actually hurt you if you were in the wrong situation with them?
I don't just think they'll hurt you. I think they'll kill you, and you'll disappear. Yes, sir. The one reason they will do that is if you get too close to one of their young.
Well, that's something I try to tell people. I don't think
that's a fact.
I don't think they're generally aggressive, but it's like any other being, any other animal, whatever. They're young around. They're going to do what they have to do to protect their young.
If you get too close to their young, they'll get highly, highly upset. If you get too close to their living quarters, they get highly upset. If you poke them too much, I'm going to say this about it. We've had, I don't know, man. Now I've had more encounters with them now. I can't tell you the number. I mean, it's been 10 or 12 now, but and out of them, most of them they've been aggressive.
That's the reason I asked what I did earlier is there's a lot of people that we've interviewed, and of course in mine and Blake's experiences, we've had rocks thrown at us. We've
Yes,
had rocks the size of basketball thrown at us.
We've had trees pushed over.
Yeah, I had trees pushed over. We had them wolf at us. But most that I've spoken with, they kind of try to portray them off as a mundane type creature, a creature that wouldn't hurt you. So that's the reason I asked you what I did.
Yeah, that's something I have a hard time with. Every once in a while, I say something about it, it ain't nothing personal, but so far, I've not been around them but a few times when they wasn't throwing something at me, breaking trees, smacking a tree, or screaming, hollering, something of that nature, slapping my house. They do not want to be. They don't want us near them. For whatever reason, they don't want human beings around. And so I'll tell you something. I didn't realize I was feeding these things to start with when the deal happened with the snake.
Yeah.
But as activity kept happening and I started figuring things out, I said, "Oh, okay, I know what's going on now." Well, I'm a deer hunter, so every year, some years I do better than others, but you get done with a deer, what you gonna take? I'll take the rest in the woods.
Now, I got a question. Do you think the reason they were slapping your house after you had killed that snake was because you fed them pretty much
Yes.
when you? Yeah, that's what I was figuring.
Yeah. If you feed them, whether you know you're feeding them or not, and then you stop, they'll get pissed off at you, and they'll do stuff like that.
That's why you don't get. That's the reason you don't gift close to where you live. I mean,
Right. So, but see, at that time, I didn't know.
no, yep.
So, but when I figured it out, now I did start feeding them on purpose, and I was giving them. I'd get a deer. I'd take the meat off of it, most of the time. Hams, shoulders, back straps, because there ain't much on the rest of it anyway. The whole thing, hide, head, ribs, backbone, is all still intact. I'd walk out to the woods, it'd be gone. Not eat on like coyotes do and stuff, just gone. So the first time I noticed that year they took 3. And then last year they took 5. Plus, they got to where they was getting some of my farm animals and stuff. And
They were helping themselves at that point.
I've got pictures of. I got a picture of one behind my chicken coop. I've got pictures of a female creeping across the power line toward my house, and I mean, I've got so many pictures of them, and that's something else too.
Do you feel like they use the power lines there as kind of like their way to navigate pretty easily?
Well,
I know a lot of
when
people
I say
have
power line, this power line only. It came down the side and then dropped off to my place, and then it went about maybe a quarter to a half a mile to my neighbor's place, and that's it.
Okay, so
it was just a feed line. It wasn't no big long.
It wasn't okay. It didn't
But
go
now
from
they
mile to
still
mile.
use it. They still use it, but it's not no big long power line that they would use to go from point A to point B.
Okay.
They had to cross it. If
To
they
get
came from a certain direction, they had to cross it to come onto my property. If they came from the other direction, they would come right out of the woods onto my property. You know what I'm saying? But and that's something else that I got told that when I first started doing this, that if you want them to leave, you just put trail cameras around your property. Well, I kept getting pictures of them. But I don't do things like everybody else does. I put a trail camera up I'm gonna move it in a week to a new spot. I don't leave it on the same tree for 6 months. You know what I'm saying? Because they will now. I don't know if they know that thing takes pictures of them, but they will cover it up or avoid it. I
Now,
have
do you,
I
you
have
believe they
pictures
can
of
see?
them putting their hand in front of my trail camera.
Do you believe that they can see the infrared?
Oh yeah, they can see in the dark for sure.
Well, yeah, they're nocturnal animals, so
You better believe they can see it. So but far as trail cameras running them off, no. It didn't work at my place anyhow.
do you think it maybe would pique their interest a little bit?
Well, in my experience anyway, it didn't run them off. I can't say it hadn't worked for other people, but I'm saying for me, it didn't have really no effect on their activity around my house. They kept coming.
They
They,
kind of did their normal thing.
but now they would. I'd get a picture, and you wouldn't get another picture unless you moved that camera somewhere else. I think
So
some.
once they found out where it was at, they avoided it.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. So it's I'm not saying that don't work for some people, but it didn't work for me. So but I was standing on my front porch one night here back. I don't know, maybe October, and it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I was talking to my buddy on the phone. We had some woods in front of our house too, and we had a little 4-wheeler path. Went out to a field, and there's a pond. And it was a full moon that night, and I was just standing there talking to my buddy, looking down at the moonlight glistening off the pond, And just if the thing hadn't have stood up, I would have never even saw it. But it was sitting right on the edge of that path, squatted down under a cedar tree branch in the right in the dark. And I think that it thought I saw it, but I didn't. So it stood up and it looked at me. And I told my buddy, I said, "Man, holy cow, one of these things just stood up, standing there looking at me." And about the time I got that out of my mouth, it run down my path towards the pond on 2 feet. It took it about 3, 4 steps, and it made it to the grass. When it hit that grass, it went down on all fours, and it took a hard left, run up the wood line, cut back up through the woods, across my driveway, and went back up in the big woods. And now they can move on 2 feet, but I'm gonna tell you right now, when they go down on all fours, I ain't seen nothing that can run that fast. That thing made it 100 yards before I walked off my porch. Because I started off my porch as soon as I saw it, and I was like, "Holy cow, man!" And we stayed out on the mountain one night doing an investigation. We went up there and made us a little room out of tarps on the top of the mountain, and we sitting in that thing, and they will respond if you do woo or wood knocks sometimes, not always. But that was the first night we did that there, and on both sides of us that night, we got all together. It was 14 wood knock replied back, and we got some whoops and a few screams. I've got tracks, casts that I've done, tree structures, pictures, and these X's and these rainbow structures, people call them. They are what does that. The rainbow structures you have to be careful with, though, because sapling trees will get bent on their own from the weather and stuff. When you find a real rainbow structure, that tree will be bent over and the top end of it will be shoved down in the ground. And that don't happen there.
Now, Bobby, I'll tell you something Blake and I have encountered, and I don't know if you have, but we have actually found trees 8, 10, 12-inch diameters where they had actually pulled the whole tree up with the root ball sticking up in the air and them shoved the end of the tree down with the root ball sticking up in the air.
Right.
Have you ever encountered anything like that?
I haven't seen one with the root ball up in the air yet. But I've found some massive X's. Matter of fact, we just found a couple of new X's just a few days ago. And this one tree, it's about, what you think, John, that tree was? 8 inches, 10 inches in diameter. It is broke off about 8.5 foot high and twisted and laid down on the ground, and then they laid another one, to make that X. And it's fresh because, and the tree is not a rotten tree. It's not infested with bugs or nothing like that. It's a healthy tree. So, they are, the grown ones are extremely powerful. And they're big. That one that ran us off the mountain that day was every bit of 8.5, maybe 9 foot tall. And I figure he weighed at least 700 or 800 pounds. And there's 2 family groups in that section of forest. You could go up on that mountain and look to your right and you'll see a great big X structure. And on the other side of the mountain on the left, you see an X structure, but they're like 300-400 yards apart. And I think what that deal was is, this is our side, that's y'all's side. Don't cross
Stay
it.
over there, I stay over
Right.
here.
And
So
we won't have no
basically,
problems.
Basically, they got their territory marked.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you something else, too, about the X's. Find them a lot of times in an area where they're hunting deer.
I never thought about that. I come across down at the lake where we had a lot of our stuff that we research a lot. We find a lot of X's down there, and there are an abundance of deer down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like, for instance, there was some blue down oak trees up there. They still had the leaves on the tops of them, but they had turned brown, but the leaves were still hanging on. Both of them oak trees that were blew down on either side of the mountain like that had X's right at the tops of both of them. And what was going by it? A heavily used deer trail. So, they were getting in them things waiting on a deer to walk by. That's it. Yeah, and like I said, I got a picture of one behind the deer. So that's their main course of food around here. And they follow the deer around. and they will do damage to your deer herd if they come on your property. Big time.
I've got a question. Since of course they like you said, I mean they follow food source. Do you think I wouldn't say necessarily migrate, but of course, certain seasons they're going to be in other areas than other times of the year. Do you feel that is true, or?
Well, they travel for sure. The ones I've been researching for 8 years now, they've been there for 8 years. They're not always in the exact same spot in the forest, but they're in the same forest.
They're going to be within a 10-mile radius. We're just throwing a number out there, but
yeah. Now, I mean, if the food runs out or the water goes dry, then they've got to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Survival.
But, and I've been asked this question a lot, and some people, when they say migrate, they mean different things.
Well, my version of migrating is, being 100 miles apart certain times of the year. I'm talking, long distances. They'll be there one time of year. Next month they won't be, or that type of situation.
I haven't seen no evidence of that at all.
Bobby, in your
I'm
area
not saying that they don't. But
in your area up there, Bobby, when do they seem more active? What time of year?
That's a tough question because I've had activity all year long. They seem to be more aggressive in the fall and winter. They seem to be more docile in the summer. I don't know if that's because there's more food, with stuff blooming and growing all over the place, because they ain't strictly meat eaters either, but they're predators.
Well, of course, they're going to live off the land. I mean, whatever's at their disposal, they're going to typically use.
But I'd say the fall and winter is when they're more active. But I think this about them, especially the big ones, the big males especially. When it's 100 degrees and you weigh 600, 700, 800 pounds and you're covered with hair from head to toe,
you're not going to be too happy.
You don't want to go moving around a whole lot in the middle of the day. And I don't think the big males do a whole lot of much of nothing. I believe the smaller ones and the females do the hunting and stuff for the most part.
Well, of course. I mean, it makes sense. It's going to be easier for them to get around, be a little bit more agile, and not be noticed as much as a 8.5 foot, 900 pound male. I mean, can't really hide that.
Yeah, it's but
my feelings on that is the big males are basically the type that stay back and are basically the intimidator.
That's right.
That's basically about the only time they come out is really when they have to flex their muscle.
You are 100% correct on that, Rick. I was fixing to tell y'all about this. Last February, okay. Same woods, but 3.5 miles through the woods on the other side. Okay. I get a call, and my nephew had got a place over there, and it had been empty for like 3 years. And he was like, "Uncle Bobby, man, you've got to come over here." I was like, "What's going on?" He said, "Man, I'm hearing all kinds of crazy stuff in the woods around here at night time." I said, what are you hearing? Like screams and something's beating on trees and whatever. I said, well, boy, I told you them things live in these woods. Your backyard, me and him had the same backyard. You know what I'm saying? Just 3.5 miles apart.
Hey,
So,
Bobby, I've got a question here from a good friend of mine out of Texas, Mr.
okay.
Richard Tyler. Richard asked, "Have you found any caves or habitation structures where they might be living?"
Yeah, I found the 2 places so far where they live. I have not found a cave yet, but there is 2 caves in that section of forest. I just haven't found them yet. So, are they using them? They may be, but when you find an area in a forest where Bigfoot are living, you're not going to have to wonder if that's what's going on there. I've got pictures of it. Man, I mean, they'll just go in there and break trees down, and you're going to see these little. They look like lean-to structures made out of sticks, and you'll see little ones and bigger ones. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
we
there'll
found
be
structure.
Right,
X's
we've encountered a
everywhere, and
lot of those.
they'll stack sticks on top of each other like this, just you know. And it's so yeah. I've actually got a lot of good video from that one particular living area. Um, we get we got run away from it a few times. That what I found out is if you go in there really easy in the middle of the day, uh, I don't know if they don't care, if they're asleep. I don't know, but I've got in there a couple times and got some stuff on film without getting rocks and stuff chucked at me. So, but and then there's other times when they won't even let you get near it. So,
And I've had people report, Bobby, that these things actually post sentries, basically watchers during the day while
right.
a group of them sleep. Have you ever encountered anything like this?
Yeah, I have. We went down in there one day and we didn't get well, just like what happened with me and my brother that day. We had got close to that living area, and it didn't want us in there, so it ran us off the mountain. And then me and my nephew went another time, and I actually got this on video also. But there was one that threw a rock at us first. It was like, man, we just got a rock thrown at us. It landed to my left, like 10 foot from me, And I said, all right, we're going that way because that's the direction the rock came from. And we get up in there and look around. We get to this crossing on the branch bottom, and there's footprints going back and forth. Well, we never did see a Bigfoot or, a creature. So, but we were recording the whole time. And again, there was another blew down oak tree, and we walked by that oak tree within about 25 yards. That thing was behind that oak tree watching us, and I caught it on film. So, he didn't holler, grunt, none of that. He threw a rock at us. That was it.
So
And,
he just basically letting you know that you were in his territory.
right. So, and that was during the day also. I think that might have been about 4:30 in the evening. So, you just I want to stress something because I'm fixing to share a video that we got last February. I've just now got to it and started going through it. I want to stress what we were talking about a few minutes ago about people saying that these things are docile creatures and, you know, they want to be your friend and hug on you and stuff. That is 100% wrong. And they haven't never hurt me yet, but I will tell you this. I believe if I would have been by myself tonight, we got this video, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. And what happened was, and we didn't know it, but what happened was we got too close to a young one on a night investigation.
Right.
And it was really crazy, man. They came running. There were 4 of us out there that night, my brother, my nephew, and my son, and me. They came running through the forest to us, hollering, and I mean, they was just making noises I never heard them make before that night. And I was like, well, boys, here they come. I didn't get that out of my mouth good, and they were like, they wouldn't let us go in the forest any further. They would throw rocks at us. They were growling, moaning like, man, I mean, like you ain't never heard. And matter of fact, it was so bad, my brother pulled his gun out, and I was like, man, don't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Really
He was like, no. They, you know, they was throwing rocks at us that night big enough if it hit you in the head.
In that type of situation too, you don't want to be the aggressor as well. I mean, you know, you pull that gun out, fire, you don't know their behavior. You don't know what they're going to do.
Well, he never fired, but he had it ready in case, you know. But so what happened was we got too close to a small one, and undoubtedly we found the nest 2 days later, wasn't it, John? During the daylight. And I was like, man, you know, because I've already been doing it so long, I was like, they've acted aggressive before, but they ain't never charged me like that. And I mean, you're going to get to hear it, because I hadn't went all the way through the video yet, but I'll go ahead and tell you, I got them on video, and I got them. You ain't never heard nothing like it, man. That's all I can say. And
Bobby, you said you were going to release this video. Are you going to release it on your YouTube channel?
I will. I might. I don't know. I'm going to put it on my North Carolina Backwoods Bigfoot research page.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably put it on YouTube also. I don't put a lot of stuff on YouTube. I do got a few things on there. But I'll probably send it to you too, because this one is it's what I've been after for 8 years. And it's pretty freaking wild.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
You know, I mean, it's.
All right, Bobby. I don't know. I don't know if you were. I don't remember if you're a member of our Facebook group, but Northwest Georgia Cryptics on Facebook. Right. If you're going to release this film, if you would go on there and release it, please.
Yeah, I think I joined up on there. I'll check, make sure, but I believe I did last week. So, yeah, it's going, you know, it's going to be a few days. I'm still looking at it. I hadn't made it through the whole video yet. And
okay.
when that happened that night, you would have to be there. You know, but when you hear this thing, man, what it is, there's a big male, and then there's I think, a female. She's not 10 yards from me, and she's looking at me from with her head around a tree like this, and that big male standing back there behind her about maybe 10 yards, and he's growling and sucking and blowing air, and I mean, it's crazy, man. But it, and like I said, I finally got to go through my video, and I was like, "Holy cow, man!" I knew they were there. The video I did with my phone, and I got one of them rechargeable flashlights. It's fairly pretty bright, so I was shining the woods and videoing with my phone, and I caught them on video, but this growl, sucking wind and blowing air this thing was doing, man. I've heard people describe it before like Darth Vader breathing and stuff like that. It's crazy, man. I even told my wife, I said, "What?" I was going closer to it, and now in hindsight, I think, man, you're
Why
an
was
idiot.
I doing that?
What were you doing?
Have you ever encountered what they call, what they refer to as samurai chatter, where these
Yes.
things are actually talking back and forth to one another?
Yes, I hadn't ever got lucky enough to get that on audio yet, but yes, we've heard it 2 or 3 times.
Blake and I encountered that down at the lake, man, and I'm telling you what, the area we were in, it sounded as if, actually, when we first started hearing it, it sounded like it was coming from all directions,
Yeah.
even from the trees themselves. And man, that's one of the wildest deals I've ever encountered in my life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you start hearing that mess. I've heard they used to.
Well, it sounds like what we encountered. I mean, it sounded like talking, but they were no pronounceable words. I mean, it just sounded like they were people out in the woods having conversation, but
right,
it
no
didn't make no
syllable
sense.
actually.
They were not. Yeah, they were no pronunciation to it. I mean,
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, I'll tell you, one night my wife was sitting on the front porch, and I don't know, it might have been 10:30 at night, and she's like, "Come out here." And I was like, "What is it?" Because by this time, man, we've been living and dealing with this deal now for 6 years. I done got to word like, whatever, it's them, who cares? And people think that's weird, but when that deal first happened to us, I took the approach of this right here. I've been hunting, fishing, camping, whatever my entire life. I don't care what these things are. They're not going to stop me from doing that. If I have to kill one, I'm not saying I want to kill one, but I'm saying I will if I have to.
well, you got you got to protect your life. Yep.
So I go out on the front porch and I was like, "What is it, honey?" She said, "There's something down there in the driveway stomping and growling." And I was like, "Okay." I go in the house, get my flashlight, get my firearm. I go back outside, take off down the driveway, and I flick my light on and shine the light, hits his eyes, and he takes off in the woods, wide open. We run down in there. I had pigs at the time. Run down in there behind my hog lot in the woods. Well, and then right behind that was that little power line. And then when you cross that little power line, it's, 8,000 acres of forest. So I go down and I'm in front of my pig lot and I'm shining the light and I get 3 sets of eyes, not 1 set. And they had got a few of my ducks a few days earlier, a couple of my chickens, and I was a little ticked off. You know what I'm saying? So I see them, and that 1 set of eyes looked like it was 8 foot in the air. The other set looked like it was about 7 foot. The third set looked like it was about my height. I see them, and I'm like, you know what? If y'all keep messing with my animals, I'm gonna start shooting at you. You know what I'm saying? And so my wife has went in the house and came back out on the back porch, and she's standing there watching me. And I said, I'm tired of y'all taking my animals and stuff. I mean it. I'm gonna start shooting at you if you don't stop. My wife's sitting right here. She will tell you. One of them jokers said something back to me, and I don't know what it was. It wasn't English, but it was like, I looked at my wife. I said, did you hear that? And she was like, yeah, I heard it. You better get your hind end back in this house. And I said, I ain't going back in the house. I ain't scared of them no more. You know, I mean, but yeah, we heard them do that a few times, and that's what I've heard. That's kind of what it sounds like. It's just like gibberish, man. Like, so
we've got a question from one of the viewers here. What does your family think about the Sasquatch being on your property?
Well, you know, we talk about Bigfoot just like we do deer, bear, any other animal in the woods now, because we know that they are there.
Right.
Sometimes the kids, you know, sometimes they're like, Bigfoot gonna get you, Daddy. And I'm like, no, Bigfoot ain't gonna get me, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, for a long time, my wife kind of dismissed it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But now she, you know, she's like, whatever. One time, it was last summer, and it's not that they don't actually live on my property, but it's because of where my property is. You know what I'm saying?
They got easy access.
They pass through it and they come on it because of where it's located. But her and the kids was in the pool one day last summer. I was at work, and I can't remember if she called me or I called her, but anyway, she was like, something's in the woods. And I was like, well, what's it sound like? You know, she said it sounds like a 700-pound man walking through there. I said, it's one of them, and it's watching you and the kids. For some reason, kids will get, especially small kids. I don't know what it is, but they want to watch them.
Yep.
They get them riled up. And I'll tell you something else.
From what we've encountered, they're actually for some reason, if you're out camping or whatever, got small kids with you, it seems to be an attraction for these creatures. And I don't know whether it's just the creatures, whether they're entertainment for the creatures, you know, just the creatures watching them play is entertainment for them, or what the whole deal is. But yeah, you're completely right, Bobby. They do seem to be attracted to where younger kids are at.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't trust them. I think they'll snatch one up if they got the opportunity. I wouldn't let my kids go out the door without one of us being outside with them, because you know, if you get to researching really researching and looking in history, there's stories all over the place of these things taking women and children.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So, I never did trust them. I told my wife that day, I said, y'all just get out of the pool and go on in the house. And,
Right.
because, we we did a experiment one time. We set a tent up right next to the big woods on the power line, okay? And I'm gonna give it away. It's a secret and it worked, so everybody else can go try it now. We sprayed that tent down with women's perfume. Okay. Later on that night, this other guy was coming over helping me research. So later on that night, set up a FLIR thermal video camera, watching that tent. We set the thing up and went to the house. And so caught one of the big males coming up to that tent that night on that deal. And that's on my Facebook page. It's one of the very first videos on there. That was 2 years ago. And then so he wanted to stay in the tent the next night. All right. I was like, dude, that's fine with me. I said, I'll stay up here with you for a while, but my wife was sick. I said, I got to go home because I got, take care of the kids. My wife don't feel good. So I guess I stayed up there with him till about midnight. And I went home and I've got two-way radios. He's like, man, keep your radio on. And as he was up there by himself. And I guess it was about 1:45 that night. He was trying to get me on the radio and I wasn't answering. I had fell asleep. So he started calling my phone. He was like, man, come up here and get me. This thing's up here slapping on this tent and growling and pounding on the ground, I said, I'm coming. I'm on my way, But it's wild, man. They're real. One of the things I'm after, my goal, and I know it may not ever happen, but I want them put on a native species list. Because here's why. So many people go camping and stuff and they have an encounter and they don't know what it was and it scares them so bad they're done with that kind of stuff. They won't go to the woods no more. And I've heard story after story after story of that. And if they would just acknowledge them, put some of their behavior patterns out, people would say, okay, we had an encounter with a Sasquatch, so maybe we don't come camping here again, but we just go somewhere else. Instead of just giving it up altogether because so many people don't believe they're real because the government won't acknowledge them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And for some odd reason, the government will not acknowledge them. They will not. I mean, I had an encounter back last year. Now let me tell you this, and this actually kind of shocked me. We were over on Pigeon Mountain over at Lafayette, and now we actually had a game warden stand and tell us, yes, those creatures are on this mountain.
Uh-huh.
And that's the first official law enforcement official that I have ever had that actually came out and acknowledged that the creatures did exist and that they were in that area.
Yeah. And me and my dad.
Anytime you say anything to any of them,
Well, that's like, down at the lake when me and my dad ran into that NSA officer. National Security don't know, still to this day, don't know why they were down in this area.
Right.
Long story short, without going into all the details, that's basically what he admitted to us as well. I mean, to me and my dad, that, in a sense, that he didn't come out and say, yes, we know they're here, but beat around the bush, that was his answer.
Right. Yeah, some of them will talk to you and tell you that, but most of them won't.
Now,
And-
let me tell you a little story that happened to Blake and them last year. They were on a investigation. Some reason I didn't get to go. I was sick or something that week. But anyway, Blake and them went over to Blue Ridge WMA, where a place where we've encountered them at, and they were going to camp at the Old Hickory Flat Cemetery. Blake, go ahead and tell them what happened.
So we had a couple team members. We had, I think, 2, 4. We had like 8 people up there with us that night that were coming, and a couple of our team members had already gotten there. And when they had first gotten there, give you a little idea of where we were at. So basically, you're 14 miles off the main road. You are in the woods. You ain't getting nowhere fast. Well, the area that we're in, they actually do training up there. The military and the Army does. So when they had first gotten there, they had heard an Apache helicopter, heard some, gunfire, whatnot, and, didn't hear it no more. Well, we got there. A couple of other of us started showing up, and when we got there, we heard gunfire. For about 5 minutes, it went away. Well, it started getting dark. And so where we're at, you got 2 roads. You got a road that comes from the right, road that comes to the left. Then that road splits off, and there's a cemetery. So there were some Humvees that had come up the road from the left, going back to the right. Well, they were like 3 or 4 of them that went on, and one stopped. Well, he sat there for a minute, and he come back to where we were at, and they kind of introduced themselves and, told us they were up there doing ambush training and whatnot, and letting us know that they had because we're right there, right where Appalachian Trail crossed. It literally crosses right in front of where we were at. And he's like, we got a team coming down the Appalachian Trail. Just let you guys know, here in about 15, 20 minutes, you're going to hear gunfire for about 15 minutes, and we'll be out of your hair. Well, one of our team members at the time decided to ask, what's the weirdest thing you guys have encountered up here? Because, they spend days and weeks up there, in the woods up there. And, of course, just traditional by-the-book government answer, maybe a bobcat or whatnot, whatever. And then he decides to tell them we're up there Bigfoot hunting. And that's when it got a little weird. All right, so going back to the original story, they said they were going to do the ambush training right there. They'd be out of our hair. Well, it turned into they camped right with us. They literally, I could have thrown a rock and hit their tent. Like they were literally right 15 foot from us.
Right.
Well, they put guys all around the surrounding area that we were at in the woods that camped out. They hunkered down. They were probably about 20 in pretty much a circle around where we were at.
Right.
They didn't move all night long. We found them going through our trail cam. We had a couple trail cams out. They found our trail cams. And they were going through our camp while we were asleep. Like, it just turned really weird. Like they were messing with us without directly messing with us.
Right.
It was just, and like just their whole demeanor when he asked about when he said something about us being up there, Bigfoot hunting. They went from being super friendly to just weird, just really weird. And like typically when you have orders and they follow their orders of of their training or whatever.
Right.
They typically don't change unless told to. Yeah. So somebody had to have made a call. Somebody had to have, because it just all of a sudden, Bigfoot comes up and their whole plans change. And like typically when you're doing that type of training, wouldn't you think they wouldn't want us civilians involved?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
So I'm not, it's one of those cases. Like I'm not saying, that they, I'm not going into a whole conspiracy on it, but I'm just, everything changed. It was just a really weird experience.
Oh yeah, I believe it, man. There is a reason that the U.S. government will not acknowledge the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, skunk ape, wood booger, whatever you want to call it. They're all the same thing. There's a reason why. And some people seem to think it's because of the logging industry. I'm not so sure that's the reason myself. It's like I even hear researchers sometimes that have seen these things say, well, there ain't no evidence of them. If I brought a video of Joe Brown from down the road stealing a package off of my porch, and I took that video to the cops and said, here's the proof, Joe Brown would get arrested.
He's going to jail.
Yep. And he would probably get convicted.
Yep.
Now,
video evidence.
am I saying that every video out there of Bigfoot is a legit video? No, because they're not.
No.
That's one of the problems
there's too much
the Bigfoot world has, is there's too many jokesters. And, I'm not against having a good time, but if you are a serious researcher, you ought to keep that stuff off your site, because people ain't going to take you serious. And then here we are wanting the authorities to acknowledge these things. And then they're like, man, I mean, every time I see you got people dressed up in a monkey suit. So
yeah, you were making a joke.
That's y'all in a monkey suit.
Out of themselves. Yep.
So I'm not saying people can't have a good time with it and stuff, but
there's time and place.
You can't really do anything about the skeptics, but I try to be careful with that stuff. Because I think it hurts us more than it helps us.
Most definitely.
I'm convinced that these beings are responsible for some hunters and missing people that go, in the wilderness, hiking, hunting, whatever it may be. Not for every missing person, but I'm convinced they're responsible for more than we would like to believe.
Yeah, there's just too many weird occurrences and missing people that just don't go missing. You got guys that have spent their whole life in certain areas, or right. and they just disappear. They just disappear. There's no explanation.
Yeah. Y'all said, do y'all want to see some evidence?
Yeah.
You want to see some? I'll see if I can get. The video I told you about a while ago. This track right here came from that same area. Okay. This is I'll see. I ain't never done this before on here, but I'll see what I can do here if I can find it. Okay. Now I found it. Let me see if I can get the toes. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
I don't know how good you can see.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to make out on.
Anyway, I'm on.
Yeah, I can see the toe detail on it there.
Okay, this track, cause it's such a small camera, I guess. But this track is 16 inches long and 10.5 inches across the toes. Okay, and I wish that I don't know what else I can do, but it's got good toes on it, but they don't show up real good on here. I'm trying. Give me a second. Let's see. Where's the camera at? There it is. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Now can you see them?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the big toe. That's the next to the big toe. That's the other toe, and that's the toe. This is a 4-toed track. All right. And you might not can tell it here, but that thing is humongous.
Oh yeah, you can get a size reference compared to your hand.
Here's a little one, a little baby one I got 2 years ago. Let's see here. Let me back up some. Seems to work better. Come on. Oh wait.
Oh yeah, you can see the full toe detail now on that one.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a good one. This one was actually, I got lucky and found it in mud, and I got the left and the right foot.
Okay, now on that one, you can actually see the mid dorsal break on that foot, and that is something that a human is not human characteristic.
Right, and it's present on every one of these tracks. This big one's just, I guess it's because it's so big, but you see that bend in that right there?
Right.
And then, I've got several of these things, but let's see, I'll show you this one. Here's one that I got, I don't know, 3-4 years ago now. Anyway, that's the big toe. I'm trying to.
What would you estimate that track being, Bobby?
This one?
Yeah.
It was 14.5 inches long and almost 9 inches wide.
So way bigger than any human footprint could have been.
Oh yeah, man. If you could look at these things with your eyes, it's they are, and I've got about 12 or 13 of them now. I've got a handprint cast, and that I found. So I have a hair sample that Brian from Sasquatch Odyssey, he's actually getting people to look at it, or they're looking at pictures of the hair to decide if they want to further
analyze it.
Right.
And I've got tons of pictures, man. But that's just some of what I got. I've got audio recordings of them screaming, wood knocks, and all that kind of stuff. And
wow.
There's too much for me to tell you, really, tonight. But so I'm fortunate, I just happen to find an area where they're at all the time, and I don't approach it. I approach them differently than most. I don't. People watch the TV series and they want to go in there and hooping and hollering and beating on trees all the time. And sometimes that will get you a response, and it works, but you can overdo it.
Well, yeah, of course.
Just like you can sit in a tree stand and blow a grunt call too much.
Right.
It's one of those things. A lot of times, if you go in and just do your normal thing, you're gonna get more evidence than going in and actually making a big scene and, like you said, hooting and hollering and tree knocks. And if you just, they're curious. So
right, these creatures are very inquisitive, and like Blake said, if you go into an area camping, for instance, if you go in and just do your normal routine while camping, these creatures are going to search you out. They're going to find out what you're doing in their, and actually you're in their home. You're not
That's
in your
right.
home anymore. When
That's
you're in
right.
that, when you're out there in the wilderness, you're in their home.
Yep, that's exactly right. So, and I don't know, man.
That's what I tell everybody.
I guess the thing that
That's what I tell everybody.
yeah,
I tell everybody, if somebody opens my front door and comes in my house, I'm going to know it.
right.
That's the same way with these creatures. If you go in the woods where they're at, they're going to know you're there, and they're going to search you out, and they're going to see what's up.
That's right. Sure enough, and they know when you come in.
Well, and people don't realize how many times they've actually been close to one and never even knew they were there.
That's
Right.
right.
Just speaking earlier, talking about, being a hunter, being a fisherman, spending time in the woods. A lot of people, you may have actually had one close to you or had an encounter, but you weren't looking for it. Now, like now that you know what to look for and whatnot, you have more encounters than you did originally because you weren't going into the woods thinking that way.
That's right. Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, I probably had them around me numerous times and never even knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the time they're just going to keep their distance and watch you. So unless you get too close to something or you start messing with them, you're going to be all right.
You're definitely not going to know they're there if you're not looking for them.
That's right. So yeah. I mean, it's a. I don't know. It's one of them things. I'm probably going to do this until I kick the bucket now. As long as my body will let me, anyhow.
Well, Bobby, like I said, I had my first encounter in 1981, and I've been doing research ever since. And that's been over 40 years ago.
Ricky, this man Ricky right here, he's had heart attacks, he's got COPD, mean, and he still to this day we get out in the woods and he does everything he can. I mean, sometimes you got to wait 10 minutes for him to sit there and take a break, but he don't let it stop him. I mean, he lifelong mission.
That's good, man.
That's it.
Last
night, for instance, we went to Johns Mountain, walked about a mile and a half in over at Pilchard's Pond. I done great going in there, coming back out, had a good time. And it's just something that, man, it's in my blood. I enjoy it, and I'll do it, like you say, till the day I die.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something I can't put down. I've tried.
It's an addiction.
It is.
But yeah, it's it's still, it don't matter how many times you get around them, or it's still, you only get so much, because most encounters never last, more than a few minutes.
If you just get little glimpses here and there, little pieces, little.
I've had a few that lasted a lengthy amount of time, but most of them it's just a few minutes, and you're not going to see one unless it wants you to see it.
That's exactly right.
No, I mean they can hide in the woods. They can hide now, but yeah, it's I don't know what I'm going to get into next. I got some stuff going on now with we've got some trail cameras in some new places, and we just found some new stuff, and I've got to put this when I get done with this video, I'm going to release it. It's kind of, I don't know, man. I'm in disbelief about this video because I didn't realize I called on it, what I called on.
Right.
At the same time, I'm happy about it, but I'm almost hesitant to put it out on the internet because
You always gonna have
I don't
Bobby,
know
you
a
always
lot
gonna have those
about.
people
I
that are
don't know.
shamers
I ain't
and
worried about them. I don't know how all this internet stuff works. I'm more worried about somebody trying to steal the video. There's always going to be naysayers and all that kind of stuff. I ain't worried about that. It put it nicely, if they'll get off that computer and go to the woods enough, they won't be naysayers.
That's exactly right.
Especially if you go to the right places.
That's it. I think these things are more in more areas, especially, one thing that I tell people, the more that the human species encroaches on their territory, the more sightings and the more encounters we're going to have with them.
That's right.
I have a lady in Chatsworth that I've talked to quite a few times, a small town about 20 miles from here. They've been having problems the last couple of years up there. They bought a 80-acre tract on top of the mountain, and they've been building up a small farm up there on it. They've been having animals come up missing,
Right.
things of that nature. They've actually had barn boards tore off their barn up there, and anytime you encroach, you're in their territory. You start encroaching in their territory, building houses, building barns, whatever.
Right.
You're going to have interactions with these creatures.
Yes, sir. That's a fact. And there are, like you said, there are more of them than people realize.
Oh yes, most definitely. All right, Bobby, we're a little over an hour and a half here, bud. We're going to have to cut her short. I want to thank you very much, Bobby, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Bobby.
Hey, anytime you want to come back, Bobby, and share some more of your findings with us, just hit me up on Messenger, and we'll be glad to have you back on, buddy.
All right, Mr. Rick, I appreciate it. And Blake, I appreciate it a lot.
Good meeting you, Bobby.
Y'all take care of yourself.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that video, brother.
Yes, sir. I'll have it out maybe in a few days, maybe early next week.
Okay.
Well, we'll be waiting.
All right. Thank you very much, Bobby.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. I want everybody to that's joined in tonight to give Bobby a good welcome and show him that you appreciated him coming on and sharing his findings with us. Blake, you want to close her out?
Thanks, everyone, guys. Thanks for being so active in the chat tonight. Just want to say thank you to all our subscribers. And if you don't mind, if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button, bell notification, like, and comment. Be on the lookout for Bobby's video and give him a warm thank you and welcome. And that's all, Ricky.
Yeah, and be sure, folks, go and check Bobby's Facebook page out. I think that was Blake, North Carolina.
Backwoods Bigfoot.
Backwoods Bigfoot. Go on and give him a check that out and give him a good shout on there. Everyone, we really appreciate you being here tonight. As Blake says, hit that subscribe button, that like button. Show us some love. Thanks, everybody, and good night. Hey, Blake, hang around a minute. I got to talk to you and get off.
Okay.